Thank you for chiming in the Sofa Juice. And let me just start off by saying this will be a classic episode to say the least. And here on Sofa Juice, we do it for the culture and the preservation of it, of course. With that being said, let's talk about a cultural icon that served not only as a powerful symbol in the industry, but also a trailblazer for those who followed. An icon who was responsible for reaching heights unseen by her predecessors, not to take anything away from them, of course. This woman broke many glass ceilings and became the first black woman adult film star to get a contract with an adult film company, which paved the way for many to follow in her footsteps. Without further ado, this woman is no other than Angelkelly. Now, to my knowledge, Angelkelly was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and raised in Michigan. And it was there where she grew up, attended modeling school, and eventually met another icon in the industry by the name of Portia Lynn. For all y'all that go back to the 80s, y'all know who about Portia Lynn. If you don't know, do your history, do your research. But moving right along, Angelkelly eventually dabbled into the adult entertainment scene along with Portia Lynn. And eventually she found her way out to California, where she made her first film with F.M. Bradley. And this opened up a whole new world of possibilities for Angelkelly. But on the other end, there were some actresses who were envious of her rise to stardom, like in the case of Ebony Eyes. Now, while in California, her hard work paid off, and eventually she met a guy who had a fairly new company at the time. This man's name was Perry Ross. After meeting Perry, she signed on with his company, Fantasy Home Video, which marked a pivotal moment in the industry. Now, after signing, Angelkelly was catapulted into stardom, and on a side note, being the connoisseur that I am, coincidentally enough, I also felt that Fantasy Home Video had some of the best video intro logos and background music back in 80s corn. I was always a big fan of their, the direction, the art direction, the logos and all that stuff. I thought it was pretty cool the way they put it together. But moving right along, Angelkelly, Perry Ross, director Paul Thomas, and the other contract woman, contract actress, also known as the German Wonder Woman, Angela Barron, all made magic on camera. This quartet of sorts had a winning formula that took a small company to the top of the game. And I think there may have been a few other actresses under contracts. I'm not really sure on that. So yeah, when we talk about her making history, I mean, it's self-explanatory, the things that she accomplished. Now, alongside her relationship with Portia Lynn, Angel also met another famed, world-renowned actress in the industry, and that was no other than Nina Hartley. And Angelkelly and Nina Hartley actually bonded off the rip. They formed a sisterhood. In fact, Nina Hartley had a lot of involvement with helping Angelkelly, putting her up on the ins and outs in the industry and, the corn game, and, after she arrived in California. So she basically showed her the ropes, like, behind the scenes and, things like that, which is pretty dope, And eventually, the three of them, Angelkelly, Nina Hartley, and Portia Lynn, with the addition of several others such as Gina Fine, Megan Leigh, Britt Morgan, and a few others actually, all formed a support group in the industry. And this sisterhood became known as the Pink Ladies Social Club. Now, this formation led to numerous things, such as distribution of a newsletter periodically for subscribing members. And this newsletter it was very informative, and it placed a lot of information and emphasis on the importance of safety, hygiene, and taking precautions, which actually led to the standardization of the current talent testing systems and screening systems that we see today. So what we see today, I know some people still have gripes and issues with the talent testing and the way it's done, and it still needs to be improved in some ways. I totally agree. But nonetheless, the standard that's used today is better than the standard that was used back in the 80s and the 70s prior to the Pink Lady Social Club being formed by way of Angel Kelly and her comrades. So, they put so much emphasis on just spreading awareness and the importance of it, of health, being the first and the first priority. And they actually rocked the industry with it. You know what I'm saying? So they shifted the paradigm, the industrial paradigm as we know it, and they broke the mold and set a new tone. But unfortunately, on June 16th, 1990, the unthinkable happened. Fellow Pink Lady Megan Leigh was found unalived due to a self-inflicted wound, and a note was found beside of her pertaining to her personal issues that led to her unfortunate demise. It was a very tragic moment for Angel Kelly, and no one seen this coming. It was an eternal issue to my knowledge. It was a long-standing issue, and I could just imagine the impact of it, because this is before society was really heavy into the importance of seeking proper help for mental health issues and things like that. So a lot of platforms didn't exist back then to help people with mental health issues such as trauma and other things. But yeah, unfortunately she passed away, on the 16th of 1990. Now, in addition to spreading awareness pertaining to health, the Pink Lady Social Club were also very progressive in their era and pushing social boundaries in front of the camera as well. Angel Kelly was known for taking on a plethora of different roles in films that she starred in, alongside with Jeannie Pepper, who also took on a long range of different roles, which was actually, a way of Angel pushing boundaries for up-and-comers to follow in her footsteps. And this may not seem like much, but it actually was, because at this time, she also had a counterpart by the name of Sahara, who was heavily marginalized in the industry for the roles that she would get, and she actually got pigeonholed doing certain roles, a lot of stereotypical roles and things like that, unfortunately. So when Angel Kelly came along, Angel Kelly really, just kind of changed the tone and, just kind of shifted everything around, just pushed the culture forward and just broke a lot of barriers and things like that. And another thing to keep in mind is too, back then a lot of your corn movies had storylines. So when we think about the role of an actress, back then it actually had more importance to a degree, because it was more about stories and things like that. Scripts had a more important role in, making the movies itself. It wasn't until the 90s where we start to see the kind of change. We start to see things like storylines kind of go to the wayside. It kind of took a nosedive, and eventually, over time, storylines became non-existent. In fact, the last high-quality movie I can think of that had a good storyline and had some, good acting and great cinematography was Merc by Justin Slayer, and that came out back in 2007. So that's over 10 years ago, just to give you context. Nowadays it's just a different ball game. I guess a lot of people don't really care about storylines because, everything is the attention spans are shorter. People just want to just get to the meat and potatoes of the subject matter, you know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit different right now, but who knows what the future holds. History has a tendency to repeat itself at times. Another pivotal moment for Angel Kelly was in 1996, when she met the late great Tupac, and she starred in the video How Do You Want It alongside Nina Hartley, Heather Hunter, and a few others. And also it was directed by Ron Hightower, so yeah, it has a lot of corn influence in that. And if you go watch that video right now, with that being said, you'll peep out a lot of Easter eggs in that video. You'll peep out a lot of surprises, a lot of cameos, and things like that. But yeah, so that was definitely a pivotal moment. She actually spoke about, how meeting Tupac and having conversations with him before he passed away actually changed the trajectory of her career in a lot of ways. With all that being said, I think Angel Kelly definitely deserves her flowers for her grit and her hard work in the industry. And she was very outspoken about the inequalities in treatment that she endured as a brown-skinned black woman in the corn industry while being in the industry. I don't know if there were ever any attempts to silence her or blackball her, but if there were, they failed miserably because her legacy lives on. In fact, Angel Kelly was inducted into the XRCO Hall of Fame in 2009 and the AVN Hall of Fame in 2008. Last time I checked, Angel Kelly was working on 2 books. The first one was the Sins of Angel Kelly, and the other one slips my mind at the moment. I'm not sure if those books were released. I tried to find them, but I couldn't. I do know she's also heavily involved in the music artist management scene down in Memphis, last time I checked. And she has a company by the name of AK Enterprises. And, I definitely wish her the best success on her endeavors with the music industry. In closing, I know a lot of people just watch the scenes and don't see the value in the culture like I do. But here's the kicker. When you don't value a culture, it makes it easier for that culture to get hijacked by those who do see value in it. And before you know it, the standard of what was once considered beautiful is changed and altered. So like, for example, when we look at the good-looking women of the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, from these old movies all the way down to the Player magazines, the Blacktail magazines, then we fast forward and compare that to the 2025 beauty standard. I can see a big difference, and it makes me wonder, like, how did this happen? When did this happen? How did it go unnoticed? What was responsible for it? You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of questions with that, because we used to be into natural bodies, and now everything is plastic. You know what I'm saying? It's just weird. But it's interesting, But I digress. So with that being said, I salute the mother, the matriarch, the queen, the architect, Angel Kelly. It's your boy Dion the Giant, signing off. Thank you for listening to Sofa Juice. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. On that note, see you on the next one.